Welcome to Pushing Past Polite with Kori
and Laura. We are children of the 80s who met while working remotely and parenting through a pandemic. We gelled instantly, built a real friendship outside of work, and found ourselves sharing how we were surviving and processing hard things, especially given our different racial identities.
And while we learned, grew, cried, and laughed, we kept thinking, these are the conversations people need to have right now. So we are pushing past polite small talk to what matters and trying to make our world a bit more just. We're so glad you're here.
Welcome to the very first episode of Pushing Past Polite. I'm Laura.
I'm Kori.
And you're doing a little shoulder shake dance. If you can't see it, just picture Shaq, that cute little GIF file. What, a little shimmy? And that's us. And that's kind of perfect because really our goals for this first episode are going to be to share our friendship origin story and have a little bit of fun, to tell why we chose this podcast name and why we're even podcasting in the first place. And hopefully set some parameters around like what we're trying to do here. Like, what's the point? So origin story. I'm not really a big Marvel Universe person. Are you? I don't know if I know this about you.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Like, we watch the Marvel movies over and over again here.
Okay. So I need to get on that. My Marvel literacy is pretty low. Is Black Panther Marvel?
Yes, Laura.
Is Iron Man Marvel?
Correct.
Okay, I've seen at least those two. I really like Black Panther. Iron Man, not
Thor.
So much. Nope.
Incredible Hulk.
Nope.
Spider-Man is like kind of in the universe, but there's a whole thing with Sony about that. So like, questionable. Okay. Ant-Man, Black Widow.
I kill these things. This is not. I'm more of a Bravo Cinematic Universe kind of girl. Like Housewives, Summer House, of course, The Winter House. I know. I'm getting very confused looks. I get this. I can tell.
I've heard of Housewives, but I didn't know that they had all these spinoffs.
Oh, honey. Again, I'm not saying I'm not steeped in all of them, but I'm more well-versed in that cinematic universe. So I will.
That is actually not a cinematic universe because it's not cinemas. They're not films.
They should be. These women belong on the big stage.
But they're not.
All right. Well, now that we've hurt some feelings.
Cleared that up.
Well, we won't have any more fighting or origin stories that involve spider bites. But let's talk a little bit about how we met and connected. So Kori and I work for the same place, same company. And when I first started there, Kori was on maternity leave. But people kept telling me, oh, when Kori comes back, you're going to work with her. You will love her. She is the best. You're going to work with her. You'll love Kori. Have you met Kori? Oh my gosh, did you get a chance to meet Kori before she had this baby? I'm like, no, but she better be awesome. It was like Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox. Like, people just appropriately, I learned later, talked about how great you were and talked you up big time. So I was real excited to meet you.
Yeah, same. Because you got hired before I went on maternity leave, but you didn't start, maybe?
That sounds right.
Something like that. And so people were telling me something similar, like, oh, I hope that you and you guys get to cross paths before you go on leave. You're going to love her. She's great. You're going to love working with her. You guys have the same kind of energy. You guys will really get along. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go drop this baby over here.
Laura is the least of my worries. I'm like dilating. So if you could just like hold it for a couple months with the Laura talk, I'd really appreciate it. So I was excited to meet you and was dying for a lifeline. And you probably appropriately I was off your radar in a big way for a while.
I mean, yeah. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. But then it was kind of like, okay, I was dying for a lifeline, just in a totally different way.
Yeah. Because the year was 2020. I came on in March, started a brand new job. Well, let's back up and say I wanted a challenge. So I was like, let's try a new job, Nothing else is going on in my life that's super challenging. And then take this job, the world shuts down. I'm suddenly homeschooling 3 children. And I develop really severe food allergies, but that's a story for another day. So it was like, oh my God, what have I done? And we also, probably important to share, work in an organization with mostly researchers. And I don't know if you can tell from the first few minutes of our conversation with, I don't know, Marvel.
That ain't us.
On paper, it's us. We have the credentials. I don't mean to say we don't understand research, but we're a bit more, I don't know if it's right brain, left brain, but whatever the equivalent side of the brain is.
Yeah.
We have at least a counterbalance in the softer side of Sears, if you will. And many of our coworkers do too, but we stick out a bit more, right? We're a little goofier, a little more, I don't know, layman's
Yeah.
terms.
Yeah. It's like if you think about the research world, we're much more the technical assistants, deliver, work with the people types. And a lot of the people we work with are more from the distance in the office, from the,
Logic models and
logic
theory of
models.
change
Yeah.
and journals and
That sort of
publications.
thing. Right.
Right. So when we did meet and we had our first conversation, which probably was a lot like this, I have no actual recorded evidence of that first meeting, but it felt a lot like this. It was like water to my soul, to my dry, thirsty, pandemic like just zapped soul. I just needed it. And so,
It was like, I know that I just met you, but I have missed you all my life.
Where have you been?
Where have you been?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you, while I'm learning a job and swimming and drowning and treading water, were pandemic parenting.
Yeah. I had my first son February 3rd, 2020. So it was right before everything shut down. And, it was still kind of like, what's happening here? We don't know what's going on. And then my family came to visit, and my dad had to go home early because he was having a procedure done. And my mom stayed. And my dad was like, you have to get out of there now. You can't get stuck there.
Tuck and roll. Tuck and roll, lady. Get out. Kiss your
Get
grandbaby and leave.
Yeah. So she left a couple of days early because they were starting to shut down international travel.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah,
she was with you.
She was with me. And they weren't sure if interstate travel was going to get shut down, but they were already beginning to shift flights and cancel some flights. And so my dad was like, you can't get stuck there.
Wait, I have a bone to pick with him.
What?
He said, I need you more. Grown man, retired, can probably make his own food. Said, you better get home and take care of me instead of your daughter who just had her first baby in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that.
I'll talk to Chip later.
Side note, they have been married 45 years, and he's been working and she's been, caring for the home most of the time. So they have a pattern, an extensive pattern of behavior.
Chip, I take it back. I love you. I'm sorry. Kori's not mad. I just got a little mad, but it's cool.
Right. So that happened. And then while I was on leave, there was just all of this racist chaos unfolding in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was even more isolating too, So I'm home, I have no family nearby. We're shut down. I'm not going to work because I'm on maternity leave, so I have very limited interactions for a while. And then there's all this hard stuff happening, and I'm looking at my little boy and hearing George Floyd call for his mother, right? There's just this, and so there's all this going on. So when I come back to work, of course, I'm checking on our Black colleagues, and then I get to meet Laura, which was like this breath of fresh air, so different from a lot of the people that we work with. And we were able to have some of these conversations about all of it.
Mm-hmm. New job, new parenting, being a mom, being a parent, and trying to raise anti-racist kids and thinking about what are the fears I have for my kids that may be very different, but are still fears that you have for your kids. And how is that different? And how the hell is that right?
Yeah.
And all these things and more. And it really, I think, blew the lid off the friendship really quick, right? It went from, you're somebody who we're working together on projects and I really like you, to, oh my gosh, like, how can I support you?
Yeah.
And you're a really critical part of my life and my social circle and you see my kids in the background, they talk to you. My husband ducks in, how's Kori today? Like, it just became
Yeah.
my whole life was on the screen, quite literally a Zoom screen. And same with yours.
Mhm.
And
'Cause how far away do we
yeah,
live
it
from each
really
other?
facilitated 2.5 hours, 3 hours, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So not so far that we can't ever connect or see each other, but probably full disclosure, we prior to last week have spent only 20 minutes in person together.
Right.
And last week, thankfully, got to share a meal together. We're together for work, which was really nice. But still, so what do we have? Like, still less than 8 hours under our belt,
Mhm. Mhm.
but probably hundreds of hours on Zoom. So life is funny.
So we were able to really cultivate a friendship through Zoom.
Hmm.
You know, we've had 2 physical touch points
Hmm.
in this 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yes, the first one was
And
actually really special too, right?
yeah, yeah,
So it's still height of everything. So we didn't want to come and stay with you per se, and like again, knowing that your little one did not have the vaccine, and at that point, I don't think mine did either. But yeah, we had a need to go to Pennsylvania for a quick trip, a road trip up and back to actually pick up a puppy. Another story. I'm normally an adopt, don't shop kind of girl, but that's another story for another day. But we had this need to go get this puppy from out of state, put us directly through the path of Kori's neighborhood, basically. And so I said, this is kind of crazy, but what if we pack a picnic lunch and just eat outside in your yard? And so we did. So we spent about 20 minutes together really quickly on our way up and back.
and Laura's kids were the first other children that my son ever met, and the interaction between them was one of the sweetest, most beautiful things I've ever seen.
I will
I
hold on to
mean,
that forever too. It was
yeah,
so special.
it was so special, and that he was so excited to see people who were small, and they were so gentle and attentive and loving, and it was like we already all knew each other,
Hmm.
and it
Yeah,
was the first time that we got to hug each other,
it was real special.
and it was very special.
It was. We have some pretty cool pictures of that day too. But yeah, my kids were excited to see kids that were not their siblings. Been in lockdown a long time. And he was so little and cute, and his toys were also little and cute, right? And of course, you've done nothing but love on him and have him in this bubble of love with no outside influences, right? So all he knows is to reach out and hug somebody. It was just the sweetest. So very, very, very special time. So here we are, 2 years later. And the question, I guess, was like, maybe we should answer is why a podcast? What made us say, okay, this is the right format? We're already on Zoom, but why record?
Well, aside from us being obviously hilarious,
Hilarious.
hilarious, we thought that these conversations that we've been having and the way that we've connected and the really honest ways in which we've communicated and shared with each other around race and parenting and friendship and just all the things that are going on would could be something that other people could also benefit from.
Yep, absolutely right. We have conversations that start in Bravo Cinematic Universe versus Marvel Cinematic Universe, for instance, and end up talking about like the experiences of children in the pandemic and like, oh my gosh, what does this mean for raising our kids later? What formative experiences have they missed and how can we supplement them, for example, right? And we come back to this thinking that was actually kind of insightful, or not that everybody needs to hear what we think. We don't mean that like we have something that no one else has talked about, but like, oh, I wish I had recorded that even for myself to think about more later. So part of this started out as a thought of for us or to archive something we'd be proud of. And then we thought, if there's anything the world needs right now is more really good conversation between people who may not necessarily look the same, have the same geographic address, have the same, zip code and backgrounds, and just good, honest connection. And regardless of all of that, just connection between humans, I think, is part of emotional well-being. And if we can in some way share that with someone who doesn't have that, if they can listen in and gain some kind of joy, that makes us happy. Or if someone can say, ooh, that's a really great question prompt, and like, I want to ask someone in my life and take a friendship a bit deeper. We want to encourage people to not just stay at surface level and not just stay at how's the weather, how was your weekend, what are you doing this weekend, but kind of pushing past polite of those simple everyday questions to things that matter a bit more. And so that's where the name of the podcast came from. It's not that we want you to be rude. Don't push past polite to be like, bitch, please, let's get
An a-hole.
an a-hole. Don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, maybe there's times where it's appropriate to do that, in which case I'm not going to tell you not to do that. But more of the idea of get out of your comfort zone, move past, or demonstrate care by pushing past polite, showing genuine care for people that are in your circle, people that are in your spheres of influence, by getting outside of yourself a little bit, and
Yeah.
we started that way, and look how uncomfortable we are now. We're recording ourselves.
Even helping people outside to push beyond their own comfort zone. I feel like
Yeah.
we've had some really great discussions that have left each of us feeling like, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. That's something I really is so useful. Laura has given me so many parenting tips that she doesn't even remember sharing with me, but I cling on to as the essence of life for my kids sometimes. Just like, oh, thank goodness she shared that with me, because I'd have snot everywhere if it weren't for saline spray or, just rubbing massages, like so many different things. And then creating space for one another to really be ourselves, where we decided that we were really important to one another, and that meant we had to be able to show up as our whole selves.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. I think for me too, like, I've learned a ton from Kori. It's really awesome to see her becoming a mom. Not that I'm a veteran by any means. I'm only 10 and a half years into this adventure with my oldest, but I think I've learned so much as someone who really has wanted to grow in my understanding of racism and how that plays out in both an individual level and in systemic racism. Understanding the emotional toll of that on an individual has been something that she's been very transparent to share with me. And I have so benefited from, as much as it's really devastating and hard to watch her experience. That's something I don't want to look away from, because I have the privilege to look away, right? But that's not something I want to do. And so her sharing honestly that added burden of what that means, what that looks like, what that feels like, to have that added dimension of her identity through certain circumstances she's encountering in life, in the workplace, as a mom, as, a daughter, a wife, all these other things, has really helped me to understand in new and deeper ways the different facets of why it's so important to, first of all, to have friendships that span differences in demography, but also to really address this problem head on, and not whitewash the problem, not make it palatable and kumbaya and we don't see color, but really to name this. And so, while certainly I am inspired by the mom she is too, because we're the same age. So she's 10 years older than I was when she started. She's so much more like confident in who she is. That like, I'm like, damn, if I was this age when I started, I would probably. So anyway, it's not that.
But I'm so much more tired.
There's that. I wish, wouldn't that be interesting as like a way to calibrate and like measure tired across people? Can we talk to the researchers we work with?
I know.
We have a sleep lab don't we have a sleep lab? We have a sleep lab. It's like the pain scale with the faces. Yes. We need a tired scale.
Yes,
with descriptions. All right. Well, we got some homework.
We do.
We'll work on that. Anyway, I say all that to say it's been really awesome. And we think it has value outside of just us. And we really hope it does. So that's why we decided to try this. we are very curious to hear from you, and we want feedback on how to make this better and more useful as well. Every episode, we will tackle something of significance, right? Push past polite to get to something that really matters and share our perspectives on it. And the perspectives that we share are the fact, like I said, we're the same age. We're elder millennials, if you will. We both turned 40 this year.
The elder
The elders,
millennials.
you may
Millennial
bow.
plus.
You may bow, you may curtsy. We will humbly tell you to stand. That is unnecessary in our presence because we are humble like that. We're moms, we are wives, we are working mamas. We're educators, we do equity work. So these are the things that we share in common, but I live in rural Virginia. And I know you probably hear banjos in your head when you hear that. And some of that is true and some of that is not. And Kori lives
right outside of DC in Maryland.
Yep. And so, as we've already mentioned too, our racial backgrounds are different. Like I am already losing my tan. I am quite pale Caucasian woman. I'm very white. And
I wouldn't say very white.
I mean,
in terms of your coloring. That's a stretch.
It's embarrassing, actually.
I know people who are much more fair than you.
Do you know what color my foundation is? Like it reads ivory. Ivory. It's like the lightest of the light in my winter color.
Ebony and ivory.
Living together in harmony, honey. Yeah, so CoverGirl tells me that I'm more pale than I should be, given my Italian heritage.
I'm short. She's taller.
Yeah, she's like Polly Pocket, you guys. You can't tell in a Zoom screen how tall somebody is. I open up that door and I'm like, where is she? Where is she? And I look down and she's so tiny. I could pick her up. I'm not petite. Nothing about me is petite. So anyway, so we do have these differences as well. Where we live, where we grew up. I know, we're already ridiculous. And our a bit of our demographics. But we also share beliefs, values about how we want the world to be and all of that. So we're going to tackle something of significance from that lens. And really our ultimate goal here is that we want to connect in ways that matter. We want to cultivate joy in friendship. And we want to challenge you to push past polite in your relationships with coworkers, with people in your circle, with your family members, whoever that is in your circle that you feel like gives you good energy and encourages you to be your best self.
And we want to create space for dialogue.
Love that. And that also starts with C. Create. Way to stick with alliteration. I appreciate that. Off script and still.
Boom.
On brand.
On point.
On brand. I love it. So that's our plans, friends. Anything on the funny end of the spectrum or sweet end of the spectrum you want to share?
Oh my goodness. My parents are here right now because my littlest one, 2 pandemic babies, you guys. I had 2 pandemic babies. One February 2020, another one in September of 2021.
And the next one in...
Never.
Just teasing.
And the
shout out to frozen peas and snippies.
The little one turned 1 yesterday.
Awesome.
And so my parents are here. And my older son, we have a 3-level house, like traditional, DC, Maryland style joint. And so my parents are down in the basement. And every morning my older son is like yelling for them.
Oh.
Go get Papi, Mamacita.
Oh.
Mamacita, where are you?
I love.
Papi coming. Papi's coming.
I love.
Papi coming. Papi's coming.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's so sweet.
He
and adorable.
Loves having them here, doesn't he?
He does. And it's so adorable watching them interact. And they've had a summer of grandkids this summer because my sister and her family lived with them for a short period this summer too, while they were in transition. So they've been having this summer just full of grandkid time, and watching my older son just soak it up has been so sweet.
Oh, I love that.
And joyous.
I am in no hurry to rush to that stage of my life because I know what else comes with it. like being that age to actually earn it. No offense to your parents or anyone else who's 20 years older than us, but I feel like that's going to be my sweet spot, right?
Mhm.
As much as I love parenting, I'm doing it now amidst the demands of work and all the other busyness. And so to be able to just drop in and like, I love you and I'm here to not spoil, like love you, just to
Love on you.
be with you. Yeah. You want to read
I
another book? You want to read that book again? I'd love to read that book again.
like what your kids had with their Nana
Absolutely right. The summer. Yep.
this
Yep. Yep.
summer.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah.
Nana was with us for 6 weeks. She had her own space and her own time to do her own things. But then she'd be like, you know what? Let's pull out the sewing machine. You want to make a pillow
Yeah.
together? It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you yesterday, I know you know this, Kori, that we went to see Wicked. I took the kids to go see Wicked. They love Hamilton on Disney Plus. I knew they'd love Wicked. They loved Wicked.
Mm.
But my side story that goes with that is my youngest, who's wide open and wild, told me she wanted to do her hair really special yesterday morning. And okay, all right. So tell me your idea. Tell me your vision. She's like, I want one ponytail here. And she points to the side. She's like half a pigtail. Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. And I go, and the other half a pigtail? Like, she's like, no. I said, how about like 2 buns or like bun pigtails? Like symmetry, please. Symmetry. Dear God,
She
symmetry.
said special.
I know. Well, I'm also thinking, okay, well, I'll just hang on. Tell me what you want, girl. 1 piggy and 1 pony in the back with the rest. And I was like, you think maybe we could save this for tomorrow and we could do something else since we're going to Wicked today? She gave me this most serious side-eye deadpan face. And she goes, Mom, it's going to be wicked cool. And I go, okay. I can't argue with that. Wicked cool hair for Wicked feels right. And so she looked a little out of step with the rest of us, but that's okay. That is okay.
But she was actually right in step with herself.
Yes.
Because that is her.
It is. And Elphaba, right? Some special talent.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that is right. She will defy gravity, that kid. I have no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
She's changed me for good.
Because I'm a do me, mama. I'm a do me. I just need a little help.
She is.
Need a little help.
That is exactly right. All righty. Well, it's time for you to think about how to push past polite in your life. So we're going to ask you to follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page, and on Instagram, we're Pushing Past Polite. And we're going to have some ideas for how this might look in the real world. We'll have some strategies, some ideas, some fun prompts, some fun content.
Some things that we've tried.
Too.
Things we tried. Things that worked for us. Just ideas.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yep. And hopefully we'll start to build a community there. But we'd love for you to tell us what you like, what you want to hear more of, maybe less of. That's also okay. And think about who really got you through the pandemic and who really gets you and knows you. And maybe tell that person if they don't know that they're your person. I'm sure they'd really appreciate hearing that. So please do reach out. We'd love to connect with you. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe so that way you can get your next episode in your feed as soon as it drops. And we'd really appreciate if you would rate and review us as well so other folks can find us. So it's been a journey. Thank you so much for tuning in and being with us. Kori, anything you want to say to wrap us up?
I think that this is a reference to the real world, right? Where people stop being polite and start getting real.
I love it. I was never allowed to watch that show. I know. I'm making up.
True story.
No, true story. I have no reference for you. We'll talk about why later.
Okay.
But I'm making up for it by completely dousing myself in reality TV in my 40s.
Obviously, since you're calling Bravo Cinematic Universe,
and I won't hear differently.
Not cinematic.
I will not. Thank you so much for joining us for Pushing Past Polite. We'll look forward to catching up with you next time. Take care.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. We encourage you to go deeper in your trusted spaces or cultivate new spaces that foster meaningful connection. Please follow us on social media to keep the conversation going.
We are at Pushing Past Polite on Instagram and Facebook, and Push Past Polite on Twitter.
Pushing Past Polite is an independent podcast with Kori and Laura from Just Educators.
Our cover art was designed by Rachel Welsh DeIga of DeIga Designs, and our audio is produced by Keith at Headset Media. Until next time, don't get stuck talking about the weather. Have conversations that matter and make your world a bit more just.